Hi, everybody. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. This is Lunch and Learn, and today we're taking up that favorite subject everybody loves to hate, your resume. God, if I had $1 for every time everybody's told me how much they hated doing a resume, I would not be here today because I would be off in St. Martin's on the beach, sipping some martinis and thinking about a great steak for dinner, something crazy like that. But the fact of the matter is, resumes are your first interview. It is an important billboard. You cannot get a job generally without one. And so what we want to do is teach you how to build a resume. This is a summary program today. We're going to be delving into this in greater detail in our boot camp. But today we're going to give you a summary. You can download a guide on our website at johngself.com. Tab the little right, hit the right tab. It's called Gateway to the membership platform, and it'll take you right to the page, and you can download the resume guide. And it's very helpful. And this is a resume guide put together with colleagues of mine when I was an executive recruiter. It's about 3 or 4 years old, and it is, I think it's a good format. Clients of mine that have used it and have customized it have had luck getting through the ATS system. So we want to talk today about your resume and how to make it so that ATS bots swoon and recruiters smile. So let's get to it. And I think, it is not an exact science, and it is something that's extraordinarily frustrating. And so you got to have a little fun with it, okay? And I will tell you right now, if anybody that says, I have the absolute exact science on resumes and ATS bots, they are lying to you, because there are multiple types of programs out there from iHire to Indeed to ZipRecruiter to corporate installations, and then some other companies that sell these systems, and you can use them on a shared basis. So there's a lot of different versions out there and a lot of different algorithms to handle this. So let's start off with what we call the stack. Now, there are 5 important elements for you to remember about your contact information. First, your name should mirror your name on your your LinkedIn page. Because sometimes recruiters, if you use like John Gregory Self versus John G. Self, and your LinkedIn page is John Gregory Self, you may not show up. So make it easy for the recruiters. Also, right underneath this, now this is not spaced the way it should be. This is spaced for video presentation. So you put your address, put your city, state, and zip code, okay? The next thing you add is your telephone number. Now, some people still put office numbers on there. That's okay, as long as you have an assistant that's not going to answer your phone, and maybe, or if she is, she understands what's going on and is loyal and confidential. Most people now are just using their cell phone, but it's still a good idea to put that C after it to show that it is the cell phone. Recruiters kind of want to know where they're calling. I've been back in the day when people still had house lines, and a lot of people still do. I called a guy's number that was on his resume to tell him he had been advanced, and his wife didn't even know he was looking, and we were talking about a job in the mountain state of Oregon. And she was a little flummoxed, and I think he heard about it when he got home. But don't put a recruiter in a position that they inadvertently violate your confidence because you didn't specify what was what. So always list your various telephone numbers. Then you want to list your email. You always want to use a personal email, never ever a company email. Why? Because on a company server, you have no rights of privacy. There's no right of expectation of privacy. It's been ruled on by the courts, so don't go down that path. Then your LinkedIn profile, it needs to be an active link so that the recruiter, once they do decide they're going to pursue you and they've loaded your resume on their computer, they can click that link and go to your LinkedIn profile. Also if you have a personal web page, also make that as an active link. So let's review the 5 elements of the contact information. Your name should mirror LinkedIn. Managers and executives should include your address, unless you're submitting on sites like iHire and Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Then it's okay to leave them off, because you really don't know There's other sites that where you've had false or misleading advertisements for jobs. But when you're submitting to a recruiter or submitting directly to an employer's email or their online submission, and not a public site, put your address. Why? Because sooner or later they're going to need it. Don't make them ask for it. Make it easier for them. Now, again, if you're sitting at some place like an iHire, Indeed, those are great sites, but they're not always secure, and they've been known to have false jobs out. So just be careful there. Designate your telephone number, include your email, LinkedIn, and website URLs, and make them all active. So that's our 5 steps for your contact information. We call it the stack. It's at the top of your resume. You can put 2, you can balance it off across the top. Do not put it in a header, okay? Scanners can't read headers. It can't get inside the header. So don't put your name at in a header. That is really bad. It's really amateurish. And you won't get called because they will never know you submitted a resume. Keep your stack simple. Don't get carried away. Nothing fancy. Why? The design quality of your resume is not going to get you the job. Okay. Now, right underneath your resume, you want to put your professional summary. Now, everybody says, no. You want to put your skill sets and you want to put significant accomplishments to make it easier for the recruiter to read. Stop. The first people that are going to read your resume is a computer. The computer doesn't care about where the information is. So my advice is do a professional summary so that when a recruiter does get your resume, they can look at that professional summary really quickly and decide, yes, this is somebody I want to pursue. Okay? And so here, this particular example has about 40 words, 80 to 90, maybe 100 are okay. You want to be sure that you really emphasize your value. This is a generic one. Do not do a generic one. Always customize this summary to the job. That means talking about things that they're looking for, using the same words and phrases that they use, and look for any power keywords. Okay, and again, while the length is important, you must deliver in this professional summary a compelling reason for the recruiter who's now you've cleared through the ATS. It's been vetted by the computer. Now he's looking at the resume or she's looking at the resume, and it's got to tell a compelling story in this professional summary. So write, rewrite, edit, and really make sure that it zings, okay? Do not use words like season. You know what that says? You're old. Do not use word like results-oriented. Let your resume speak for itself, okay? That's just an unnecessary word that you don't need to use. It doesn't add value to your performance. Okay. Right below professional experience comes your professional summary, comes your experience. Now, this is one thing that drives recruiters crazy because a lot of applicants will use 2 or 3 different formats for listing jobs. You got to be consistent. This is really important. And you got to be consistent not only with how you display it, but your formatting must be consistent. I probably have a few glitches here, but trying to convert all this to a PowerPoint. But in this case, I use my old employer, Herman Hospital, the Texas Medical Center. It's the largest medical center in the world. That's why I used it there. Houston, Texas. Okay, and then this is going to be customized as well because you can use keywords and phrases from the job summary in whenever it's possible. Always use their language whenever it's possible. Okay, and this basically tells Herman's story back when I worked with it. It was owned by the Herman Hospital Estate. Now it's really the flagship of Memorial Hermann. It is the flagship hospital of the Texas Medical Center. Most people don't realize it, but Hermann was built in the medical center in 1922, and that hospital is the only hospital in the world's largest medical center that's built on land they own. Everybody else has long-term leases. Now, it's a level 1 trauma center. I think that's important. The hospital is known for its trauma services, its surgical, neonatal, neurological, cardiac, and burn centers of excellence. And it is also known for its life flight program. So I try to put that key information up there. And if your hospital has been honored for performance or quality, it's got a national recognition award. The Baldrige, for example, put that stuff there. Why? You want the recruiter to know you work for a Class A1 hospital. And so you want to sell the hospital because that's selling you. Now, you want employees to understand that you work in a premier company. So when you're defining the organization or explaining it, and recruiters want to know about the organization and where it's located, be sure you're selling it, okay? This is the picture I told you about. That's the original Hermann in 1922. Nothing much else out there. Matter of fact, they ended up having to build a nurse's dorm because the nurses couldn't get to the hospital. George Hermann owned all this land. He was a Swiss immigrant, and he dedicated all of this land where Hermann Park is and where most of the medical center is and through his foundation, and donated it to the city because he wanted to see good quality health care, and his hospital was designed to take care of people who really needed the help. And on to the left of the green tower is the new professional tower. The old original professional tower is right behind it. Then the new heart hospital and another wing that they built. The original Hermann Hospital is right behind, right below the light tower. That's the original hospital. That's a new patient tower. There's another one over here, and then there's the university tower over here. And now, over just past where that helipad is, there is now a new hospital with a James H. Red Duke Trauma Center and Lifeline Helipadding New Control Center. They operate 7 helicopters. They are the largest trauma center in the state of Texas. So I just wanted to show you that picture of contrast because a lot of people have never visited the Texas Medical Center. Okay, now we get to experience, and this is where the rubber meets the road and where a lot of people go into a ditch. So let's talk about the 5 takeaways. You need to explain your current role. Why? Because that's talking about why they will hire you. You want to be sure in your explanation that you don't get too long. This is about as long as you need to go. And you want to put salient information about your job, and you want to do it in a way that ties with the job that you're looking to. It goes in keywords and phrases as well as scope of responsibility. Okay? And, put your accomplishments. If you've done a good job, this is where you listed here some of your description. Now, below this, you're going to have, and I didn't say it here, so I just listed it on here. But you can take some of these accomplishments out and drop them in bullet points below here, and you would list the bullet points in order of significance. So, in other words, I could say I was the first director of Lifeline. Pretty significant, but there's some other things I did that were of greater value, and this really reflects those. So, 5 takeaways on your experience. You want to explain your current role. You want to use applicable key words and phrases for the job. You want to highlight your achievement in dot points in a metrics format with an order of importance format, and you want to emphasize before and after performance comparisons whenever possible. Okay, so let's be sure that you're clear. This explained what I did. Now, because we had small, I didn't want to go into use a lot of space here. Below that, some of these accomplishments I used in describing my responsibilities would be better suited for dot points. Building one of the largest not-for-profit rural health systems in Texas and Louisiana and Oklahoma, and really in all the southern United States, I think is a big accomplishment and would probably be my number 1. Don't put it chronologically. Put it in order of importance. Okay, so that's the key takeaways for your experience. Now, a lot of us have been around for a little while, and so you may have more than 6 or 7 jobs or 5 or 6 jobs. And here's what you want to do: the jobs, once you've used about 10 years and highlighted your experience in 10 years with the name of the organization, where it's located, and a description of the organization, your title and a description of your scope of responsibility, and then a dot point list of all your accomplishments. After you've done 5 to 10 years, I would say closer to 10 years, you don't have to go through all that detail because you've already established your accomplishments and your experience and your qualifications for the job. So then you can just list previous experience or earlier experience and just list the name and the city where it was located and dates of service. Okay? You do not need to list any accomplishments or go into scope of responsibility with these tenures. Okay? Now, academic credentials. This is also an area that trips people up. Okay? List your if you have a PhD or a doctorate in economics or a doctorate in business administration, doctorate of public health, doctorate of healthcare administration, whatever, doctor of accounting, that's a terminal degree. That goes at the top of your academic credentials. You list the name of the degree, the university where you earned that degree, and the date. Now, the reason you put the date is not to date you, but it makes it easier for recruiters when they're doing background checks. The background companies, that helps them facilitate the checks because you don't call the universities anymore for confirmed academic credentials. You now go through a clearinghouse, and it's even increasingly automated. So if they have the dates when you graduated, that's very, very helpful. Then your first degree. If you went to a community college, if you didn't degree out of that community college, you don't need to list it. So you're not giving away. You may give away your age, but look, if you've got great quality, great energy, and you're really raring to go, when you graduate from college, it should be the least of their concerns. Okay, now professional credentials. This is you have professional credentials, and then in a lot of industries, you have sub-credentials, like in healthcare, quality. There's just a whole raft of specific certifiable credentials you can achieve. Only use the credentials after your name that relate to the job you're applying for. If you've got 10 more, put them down in the professional credentials. Always put them in order of importance. If you have fellowship in the American College of Healthcare Executives and you're pursuing a healthcare job, that's the top credential that a lot of recruiters look for. It's CPA, same thing. Now, CPA in FACHE and things like that are appropriate to put after your name. You never list the name of the organization after your name. I see a lot of times on healthcare resumes, they put their name and they put comma ACHE. That's not a credential. That's the name of an organization. And it really makes you look bad that you didn't know any better. If you're getting up to earn a salary of $150,000 to $250,000, $300,000, you need to know the rules of a resume, and you need to have it ice cold, dead solid, perfect. So don't play little games trying to make yourself sound a little bit better. The other interesting thing is a lot of people put after their names MBA. That's not a terminal degree. Technically, you're not supposed to put it after your name. A lot of people do. I'm not trying to fight City Hall, but I'm just saying it's not a terminal degree, and don't put it after your name. If you have a fellowship, you can't get a fellowship in healthcare without having an MBA. So that's sort of redundant. Other areas, I can understand that. I'm just that's the typical traditional rule. No degrees after your name unless they're terminal. MD, PhD, DO, DDS, those types of degrees are permissible to list. JD, Juris Doctorate, those are permissible to list after your name because they are terminal degrees. Now, detailed listings of earlier employments, as I said, are not required. You can emphasize any noteworthy achievements in those positions in your interview. Do not engage in something we call accomplishment creep. Most people now have decided that it's too risky to lie about jobs or try to cover up gaps or things like this. And it is. And it's just silly to even try that. And so what they try to do is make themselves sound more powerful, more adept, more competent by exaggerating their accomplishments. I remember one guy said that he did a $200 million turnaround in 180 days on a company. That just begged the question and stretched credulity. Excuse me. And so he later on questioning, it actually he left during the turnaround, and he was really misrepresenting himself, and so we took him out of consideration. Don't lie, don't exaggerate. You can sell yourself and sell yourself with passion and enthusiasm, but don't lie. Don't play that game. It detracts from your brand. Okay. Now, be consistent with your formatting. That's important. And if you have employment gaps and are asked, do not lie. Stuff happens in life. And if you have a sincere explanation, people are going to accept that because they know stuff happens. So that's the best advice I can give you there. Okay, community service activities. Oh, gosh, I've seen some people have so many activities from the day they were almost like from the day they were born. You want to list your most recent activities. It's chronological order. Um, and now, 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years ago, if you earned, let's just say, the Paul Harris Fellow, that's a big deal in Rotary. And if you get that, that's something you would keep on your resume, regardless if it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But being a Rotary member in some town 10 years ago is not relevant. It just takes up unnecessary space. It's almost like you're just trying to, sandbag the operation. Don't do that. Use your most recent, maybe the last 5 years of civic and or organizational activity service clubs, and just say, just put a paragraph under that. It just said, I've been involved in Rotary for this many years. When I first took my first leadership position, I've been involved in community service. That's great. That's all that cares about. The recruiters don't care about every detail, every office you ever held, every project you undertook. And some people will list that. Okay? Now, I'm a big believer in this, and people may disagree with me, and that's okay too. But if you achieved Eagle Scout, that's a big deal. And there's a lot of senior executives, a lot, who were Eagle Scouts. I was at a scout service in Houston with my son at St. John the Divine, and they asked everyone in the audience that had been scouts to stand up. And then they asked all of the Eagle Scouts to stand up. And I recognized 5 or 6 of Houston's major CEOs who were there were standing because they were Eagle Scouts. So that's okay to list it. And if somebody just said, I listed that because I'm extremely proud of that, who is going to hold that against you? And in fact, it may help you. But if it's not on there, you're not going to establish that connection. So my advice is to use it. Another thing I saw, that a guy was told not to list that he was a Navy SEAL team member. Now that's a real hard accomplishment to achieve, to get on the SEAL team. And I told him, I said, you can put that in there, and just, don't overplay it, just list it. That tells people that they have determination, they have the grit, and they have the focus to accomplish something very, very difficult. Okay, so that's something I also recommend. If you are a former served in the military, you want to put your dates of service. Also, if you were making a transition out of the military after 25 or 30 years and you were an officer, I'm a big believer, anything above captain, you can list your officer rating. Don't use the E-class ranking system. Most people who did not serve don't know what it means. So use the specific rank. I started here with captain. You can start with lieutenant, if you were a non-commissioned officer, you can list sergeant, whatever class you were. But if you list it or explain it, that means that people will understand it. A lot of people who do recruiting, especially millennials, some Gen X's, they don't know what the E-class system rating is. And if you were a colonel and you say you're health services, that's really tough because every 2 years you're being moved. And so you have to be very, very careful when you list that. And when you have multiple employments under one organization, the United States Navy or the United States Army or HCA or Tenet, you always want to list the main organization at the top, the Army, the Navy, HCA, whoever it is, and then indent all of your assignments under that organization. Don't make it look like each one of them was an individual assignment to a different hospital, because then people will kick you out because they think you move too much. I actually had somebody in Washington tell me they weren't going to hire this guy who was absolutely stellar because they moved around too much. And I don't need somebody that's going to move around. I said, they move around because every 2 years as an officer, you go to a new post. It's part of the gig. Everybody knows it. So if you make colonel, you probably moved 20, 30 times in your career. And at that point, It's a good idea to let your wife make the last decision on the move after she's moved with you 25 or 30 times. But anyway, that's you have don't assume that people will understand the Army service. Don't assume they're going to understand the importance of the SEALs. Anything that's going to show that you have great political skills, that you have a lot of grit, that you have a lot of stamina, that you are focused on the prize, that you have a lot of political skills, and that you have the ability to come in, achieve results, and move on. If you don't achieve results in the military, you're out. So those 2-year assignments, you're going to get people who are really, really incredibly talented at analyzing problems, building strong teams, and then they move on in 2 years. Not necessarily because they want to, but that's because that's the way the Army does it. That can be a great strength if you've had that experience, okay? And be sure you figure out a good way to explain it in your interviewing process. Don't assume everybody understands it. Now, here's some things you should not do with your resume. Do not use text boxes for resume lists. I saw this guy the other day for one of my clients. He had subcontracted with another outplacement firm that uses contractors. And this guy's apparently some hot shot and had 4 or 5 initials after his name for resume writing. And yet he put all of her significant accomplishments at the top of the page. He didn't even get her employment to almost the bottom of the page. Okay, but here's the deal. A lot of times scanners, if it goes through a scanner, and you don't want to create a resume that's not ATS friendly. You just don't want to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have an ATS resume and a non-ATS resume. Okay, so sometimes the scanners, the older models, even some of the newer models, won't scan through a text box. If it has a lot of color, it won't pick that up. So do not use thick borders or make excessive use of color. Okay, do not use tiny little type to get more into the 3 or 4 pages that you think you have to have, and because the computer can read it, but recruiters get really honked off at these really hard to read resumes. White space makes it easier to read. Sooner or later, somebody's going to have to read that resume, and you want to make it easy for them to read. That's why you put the summary at the top, because if you're putting your significant accomplishments, you're repeating them throughout the resume, and that's really a waste of space. Do not waste space on the first page with significant achievements or skills. It's the old newspaper story. Everything in a newspaper, if you remember what those were, above the fold was the most important news of the day on page 1. And so the top half of your resume is the most valuable real estate in your job search. So you want to be able to have impact and really, really support your brand at the top of that resume. Okay, now here's 5 actionable takeaways. Leverage, don't complain about, hold on, I'm going to go back here just a second. Be sure we covered everything. Yep, we did, thank you. Now, 5 actionable takeaways on the resume. First of all, ATS is here to stay. It's not going away. And so complaining about it or digging in your heels and trying to fight it is a fool's errand. It's just not a good career strategy. And you're going to find yourself sitting on the sidelines because you're never going to win an argument with a computer. It's not going to go away. Now, even if your state allows an opt-out, and some states are considering it, New York City has already passed a public law that allows you to opt out of the resume review. Guess what? They are not obligated in the law to read your resume. So if they don't have time to read the resumes and a bunch of them come in under the opt-out, they may hire some junior person, or they may just scan them 20 seconds at a time. But it's not necessarily in your best interest to opt out. It is in your best interest to figure out how to work with the ATS system. And a good resume person can help you. Resume writers are going to have to redefine, just like coaches are, redefine their value proposition. I can help you and show you how to do it. I don't do resumes per se. I teach you how to do them, because you're going to have to keep updating that resume for every job you apply for if you're applying online. Now, some of the big search firms scan resumes, but most of the search firms do not. The researchers and associates are looking at resumes. But you need to understand who's your target. Who's going to be getting this? Is it going to be looked at by a computer or a human being? That defines how you should respond. Now, when submitting to iHire, Indeed, ZipRecruiters, treat it as an applicant tracking system submission, because that's how they route the resumes. They scan them with their ATS algorithms and then route them to the right client. Now, this is something that I talk about all the time. Your odds on online submission are about 150 to 1. Okay, keep that in mind. Keep this in mind. 60% of the best jobs are not listed online. That's why you need a network. You want a network that can refer you to those jobs, because that's how most of those jobs are filled, by referral. And besides, why do you want to keep banging your head against the front door with everybody else trying to get through that computer, when a friend who knows you, likes you, trusts you, and respects you will take you in the side door? That's what this is all about. So, that's something that you want to consider. Keep building your strategy. So I'm going to uncouple here and check and see if any of you have comments or suggestions or questions about the resume. Now, we will be doing an in-depth resume review and a resume course in our boot camp that is tentatively scheduled for April 27th, Saturday morning. It'll be 3 hours. We already have 2 special guests lined up. T.D. Smyers, an executive coach who works with career transitions, will be here, and Ron Thomas, a CHRO and healthcare HR consultant and keynote speaker who's based in Dubai, will be with us on video because of the time differences and his travel schedule. But we're delighted. Ron is a terrific guy. He used to be a CHRO for Martha Stewart's company, Omnicom, and he's worked in Saudi Arabia. He now is responsible for the Middle East, the North Africa area, and parts of Southeast Asia. So he travels quite a bit, but he is a really great guy. If you want a really good live stream show on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time, Ron does the CEO series where he does interviews with various business leaders around the world. So he's an interesting guy and will add a lot of substance to our boot camp. Well, we don't have any questions today, so that's fine. We will be covering a lot of this information, but in greater detail in the Career Boot Camp in April. And as I said, April 27th is the tentative date. We'll be making that confirmed announcement, save the date announcement, later this week. I hope you'll join us tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and our Facebook page, where we will have office hours, and we've got a really great lineup schedule for that. And so I hope you'll join us. It's at 4:30. Now, if you're still in the office or running late, as it's the case today, and you want to watch a video replay of this, it will be available on our YouTube channel for replay. Now, Thursday morning at 7:30, we have Career Live. It's kind of a summary of the week's activities and any new trends on technology, and we hope that you'll tune in for that. It's 7:30 a.m. Thursday mornings, and then Fridays at 11, we have an open live stream where you get to ask questions regarding job search and career management issues. It's really hard to find a job right now. Even if you have good contacts, it's still a real beater. If you're a manager to executive, it's going to be anywhere from 6 to 14 months before you can place. It's just because there's a contraction in the number of available jobs, and there is a lot of competition for those jobs. And so it just takes longer. Employers can be more picky. They're going for the high-hanging fruit. And so when you get in a job search, it can be pretty lonely. Let me tell you, your spouse or your partner doesn't want to hear all the dribs and the drabs and the frustration and the heartache and the anger. So we've created a group called Your Career Community so that you have a chance to come together. It doesn't and get education to be sure you're staying on track. You can have ask questions. You can get free consults. We're here to help you. We hope you'll join us every week. Every week we have 2 to 3 live stream lectures and group coaching sessions on the 1st and 3rd. we have three. It's three, and then the second and third Wednesday, Tuesday and Wednesday, it's only two. So we have career lives Thursday mornings, your career questions Friday mornings. Wednesdays we have office hours, and then the first and last Wednesday or Tuesday of the month, I'll get it right in a minute. We have something called Lunch and Learn, and we're continuing to evaluate all our programming and all of our live stream based on demand. So if you have feedback on when would be better, if you want to participate live, when you would like to see it live, let us know and we'll be happy to factor into our programming decisions. This presentation will be available on YouTube after today, and it'll stay up for several days. And office hours tomorrow afternoon will have the same thing. So we hope that we can build a community that will allow you to come together and be supported, that will be helped and nurtured. And when you're down in the dumps, you can call me and we'll pick you up. I've been there. I know what it's like. And I've also seen it from the eyes of a recruiter. I spent 27 years in global executive search, and I've spent a lot of time as an executive looking for jobs. And so I know how frustrating it can be. I know what the hurdles are today. And so we encourage you to consider becoming part of our Your Career community. Now, tomorrow morning at 11:30, our latest newsletter drops, and it's going to be a really power-packed one this week as well. Last week, we sort of took on the recruiting industry, and this week we are taking on some others. Now, the newsletter is on Substack at Guiding Your Career, and then we also create a link. If you're a member in our Your Career community, you will also be able to get a link in the Your Career community page. So we hope that you'll join us, and we hope that this has been helpful information. I really appreciate you being here. Give us your feedback on what we can do better. How you would like for us to present, if we're presenting in a way that's meaningful to you. We are very flexible. We're just trying to get content going here, but we want your opinion and we want your advice and input. So thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 this week for our office hours.